you know, they'll go from strength to strength. Like that, don't you?
It's a little trademark.
Pardon the pun.
Yeah.
Oh, this is nice, isn't it? This is a nice start. Should we do this one with our eyes closed, looking into the distance?
Yeah.
We like to talk about the weather. We like to talk about the weather on our podcast, don't we? And this is actually in the UK.
Well, we've made an effort every time the weather's good.
Yeah.
I feel like with a lot of our content, we've made an effort to mention it.
Yeah.
And get out there.
And make the most of it.
Yeah.
Tom, another episode.
Yeah.
Here we go. Just finished off the back of our FIP London tournament in Chiswick, and I think this episode let's probably recap how we did in the tournament, what we felt, what we're going to work on in terms of our game and paddle and things like that, and then let's go into what we've been doing with the paddle school, because we've been running along, you know, that stuff along the side, and then we've got, you know, next month's challenge, the courses coming out, things like that. So let's start with the FIP. How did you feel?
Well, I was just thinking actually, when was the last time we played together?
Last time we played together.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. Maybe even the last FIP actually, which was well, at least 6 months ago.
No. We played in Padel in December.
Yeah.
That was the last time.
Oh yeah.
In a British
UK event.
national tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite a while though since we played, and it was nice to play again. We've trained obviously a little bit, but I really enjoyed competing this week. I thought we had some good results. I thought we played better together. It's really difficult, isn't it? Because I would say we have a very good relationship because we do coaching and everything else, but we don't actually play. We don't sort of train together as a pair, you know, in match conditions at all. Well, we
so rarely play.
Yeah.
Matches full stop, but then also good tournament matches, and I think there's a massive difference between a training game and competing in the tournament, just everything around it, like the event and things like that. So I mean I would agree with that, and I think it also, like, a lot of players talk about feeling chemistry, but whatever you say, it takes time to build up a playing relationship, to feel comfortable with the person on the court, to not only in terms of tactics and who takes what ball and things like that, but also just, you know, generally trying to get that same mindset together. And I think you and I probably approach competition in a slightly different way, but you can gel. It just takes a little bit of time.
So for all those viewers that they might be aware of the FIP, or they might not be, so do you want to give us a rundown of the FIP this week?
So I mean, the FIP is the International Padel Federation, and they hold a series of tournaments around the world, and they have different tiers before it gets to Premier. So all of these points from FIPs are the same points that players get in Premier, and therefore we saw a lot of very strong pairs in the main draw, and a lot of people with points that had come from, you know, South America or from the previous events. And so the FIP basically is, you know, a nation or club hosts a FIP, and then that nation, like for us, for example, this one was in London, so we had a lot of British pairs in the qualifying. We got a couple of wild cards for British players to go into the main draw, but it's a great opportunity because you get loads of different nationalities across, not only in main draw, because there were some Swedes, some French, some different nationalities in main, but also in the qualifying we had a pair come from Iceland, which was amazing, really. They've got 2 courts in Iceland, and these are 2 tennis players. They're both lefties actually, and were playing together, their first professional tournament. And so it's also a great experience. Like, our first pair was a young British couple, and I was actually, impressed with how they played, considering they don't have training and they don't have, proper.
Oh, our first round match.
Match. Okay. So we played a young British pair, and they are. One is a member of a local court. I mean, has one outdoor court. So, how they've been able to train and to practice is beyond me. But I quite like these FIPs because you see a lot of players kind of coming over for them. So a lot of the local players see a really good level, but also it's a chance for all of us to play some good matches. And you know, we had 4 matches in total, and you know, I really enjoyed them. They got tougher and tougher.
Well, the second round qualies was tough, and the last round qualies was tough. I mean, I think we did pretty well to get through the matches we did, like the second and third round. I mean, on paper we were, you know, not expected to win those matches, but we came through them, which I thought was interesting. Yeah,
and I mean the second match we played was the 3rd seed in qualifying, an Italian and a Spanish player, and they play the qualifying for the premiers and the events, and they were good. They were good. They were solid, and I mean, I thought we played better and better in that match, and then in the following one again, and we got more comfortable playing with each other, but also more comfortable to the courts.
Yeah.
You know, the courts were, you know, the carpet was a bit older, and it was that old surface where you got sand on the courts, and so the first match you play on there is always a bit difficult, isn't it? And it's one of those games where you think, right, I've just got to stick this out. You know, I've got to just keep putting the ball in. It wasn't an easy surface to play on and to move on. But it was good.
Yeah, it's tough. I think it's tough, isn't it? Those conditions, because we were lucky in the sense it was in the London, so we could train on them. Like we trained a couple of days before, but always think and I had this when I was travelling on the tennis tour, is that you go to all these different places and you're used to training on a certain type of court, and then you go somewhere with no idea what you're going to get, and you get a court that, you know, like you say, is sandy, quite difficult to move on. The glass was, you know, like not completely clean, so it ended up kind of having, you know, odd bounces off it, and so. Yeah, I mean, it kind of took me back to my touring days in tennis, where I just thought this is it's quite tough mentally, I think, for touring pairs to go around and play, and you win some, you lose some, but no, I thought it was good. I
remember that from tennis. That was the thing. We were training at the National Tennis Centre, which is an amazing facility. It's 5-star. You know, it's a little bit like the Padel clubs that you see in Sweden or the UAE. You know, they're premium facilities, aren't they? And so, you know, when you're training in that, and then you go and play where that FIP was in Chiswick, and it's a kind of, you know, they're park courts, essentially outdoor, and I mean, this one had a cover, but it's very much a park court feeling, isn't it? And I remember that from our tennis days, going and playing a future in Turkey or wherever it might be, and you think, God, I wish I'd have trained in a slightly rougher environment to get used to that. We were lucky that we got to train a couple of days before that. But I mean, in terms of your game, you know, what did you feel like went really well? And then what are you now going to go away and work on? Because you're going to Madrid on Tuesday, so you're going out there to do some training at an academy there. What are you coming away in terms of specifics for your game after this?
Yeah, I mean, probably so much. I think it's really interesting because when you play the matches against these better players, I would say probably from second round qualifying, I mean, we came through those matches, but I would say they were like very high level players from second round qualies all the way to main, and so it really does highlight when you play better players what you can improve, but also kind of what you've done well to allow you to compete with them. And I think for me, the consistency has just improved for me. Like the overheads have been consistent. You know, like my Vibra, for example, I feel really like happy with that. Like I used to go up to hitting my Vibra thinking I'm going to take a little bit off this because I'm not 100% confident in those big moments to hit it. But I mean, I don't know how it felt playing with me, but I've really felt confident going up for that shot. I think my volleys were aggressive and attacking, and I think we talked about it before the tournament when, you know, I've obviously come from tennis and I got to try and use some of those like benefits of having played tennis, like, you know, being aggressive, trying to take the initiative at the net a little bit, even though maybe when you go to Spain, you know, the mindset is slightly different. So yeah, I think positives was the volleys were very good. I thought I obviously can improve them. I was happy with the overheads. I think honestly, for me, the thing is just playing matches and choosing the right shot at the right time. I didn't really come away and think, I really need to improve this shot. I think for me it was more about I really need to improve making the right decision at the right time in the match, which it's difficult to then go and say, like, let's get a basket of balls and train that. It's more about playing competitive matches.
Playing good matches. Yeah. I, to be honest, I felt like this was the best you've played, like playing with you, and the most comfortable you've been. I feel like if I compare this to when we played before, you were almost panicking before, whereas I felt like you were a bit more settled in that you were comfortable with your vibra, you're comfortable with the attacking volleys, and even from the back actually comfortable, you know, with that pace. And I think more matches will only make you more comfortable. One thing that I was thinking about, you know, after the match, and I remember when I went through a phase of playing a lot of matches, it's one of the benefits of playing a lot of matches, I felt, was almost being able to turn 3 or 4 errors into only one. You know, like that's what I feel like a lot with our players, and maybe sometimes over that weekend it would almost be like to make one mistake and then to really make sure the next point or two you are not the one making that mistake. Whereas I remember it being from tennis, you miss a ball and then you think about it on the next one, you end up missing 2 or 3 points in a row, and then suddenly you've lost a game, whether it's your service game or their game. But it ends up being, that's the thing I find in paddle, it's so fast between points that, you know, one mistake can so easily turn into 3 or 4. And I felt like during matches, like playing lots of matches, that's one thing I felt improved significantly, was making a mistake but then almost resetting, putting it completely behind me, but then at the same time saying, right, next one more consistent, you know, and making balls, because it is difficult. You go into each match being having this mentality that is like, right, I'm going to just make a lot of balls, I'm going to push the ball in, I'm going to make a lot of balls, I'm going to make them uncomfortable. But it's not like tennis where you would get fired up and you go out, you know, go off the blocks really fast and be aggressive. It's a difficult, I find it much more difficult than tennis.
For me, the challenge is when you miss a ball, like let's say, you know, you have a rally and let's say you miss a volley in the net. The next, in my mind, I'm already thinking, like you said, like, okay, don't make another error here. But then what I actually find is, against obviously the better players, is that I'll then pop up a short lob. Or I'll think, right, just make the ball, and I won't actually commit to it. I think, oh, just try and get the ball in, try and make them play. But then against the better players, like if you put up a short lob, that pretty much is the same as giving them an error. And I think that really hammered home for me. Like when we played that last pair that we lost to, like for me, this is how I felt, and probably the same as you. Like our lobs just weren't deep enough, and I actually watched it back on like Match Eye TV where the match is recorded, and it's interesting because all of their lobs, they're pushing us to a point where we were on the back foot hitting an overheads, whereas all of our lobs, they were able to like take a base and without really being off balance and able to hit. And that's why when I look back, I think, you know, we actually said at the time, didn't we, we could play those lobs a lot deeper, but it's those fine margins, I think, that probably cost us that match. Well,
and even I felt like the playing level was fairly similar between us and the opponents, but like you say, we would hit one decent lob and then the next one we would hit short, whereas they would hit 2, 3, 4 decent depth lobs, and that's it feels like a small margin when you're on the court, but it ends up being a big margin in that, you know, they were just going to play one more ball or one more better ball, or, you know, when they hit their return, it's just that much lower over the net, you know, to dip to our feet, you know, a good Chiquita, things like that. And so it feels like small margins at the time, but it makes a big difference. And it's the same at the recreational level. It's making one more ball, whether you're a beginner or if you look at the pros of Tapia and Cuello in, you know, against LeBron and Glenn, it's making one more ball and making it that much more difficult for your opponent.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about recreational level as well, because I feel that a lot of players, recreational and even, you know, up to professional, is more of a mentality. When you play a pair that you think is higher ranked or better than you kind of have this feeling that you have to play amazing to beat them. But actually, like we found, and I think we were a little bit
we gave too much respect to them and their level.
Especially at the start, we were trying to play too well, and actually the difference between us and them was really we just had to play another 3 or 4 more balls than the previous round, as opposed to thinking we have to play, you know, a faster vibra or a winning volley or something more than that. And I think I mean, next time, if we were to go out and play the next week, which we're not, but I don't know when. I don't know when
I
we're
wish
going
we would, yeah.
I don't know when we're going to play again, but it would hopefully give us a bit more belief that actually the level, the playing level is there. It's just playing a few more extra balls and being willing to play those longer rallies, I think.
Well, we need that experience, right? Like, and it's just being a little bit more comfortable at that level. You know, and now if we played that same match again tomorrow, we would go into that thinking straight from the start that our level is similar. We just need to make more of those balls, and it, you know, we have a lot of these conversations with our players. It doesn't matter if you're playing very good ex-tennis players or you're playing paddle players slightly, you know, above your level. If you can just keep making the balls, keep making them play, anything can happen. Like that result is not fixed. Giving your opponents too much respect is, in a way, part of the reason that so many players start their matches down, like why they get broken and why they start, you know, losing that first set.
I find it really interesting as well. I mean, we always talk about the comparison with tennis, which you know, is because of our background, but I find it super interesting how you and I can go into one of these international tournaments, and I'm not, you know, downplaying our ability, but I find it really interesting how you go up against professional players. Like, these are all players that are training 4 or 5 hours a day. They're doing fitness every day. They're traveling and playing tournaments every single week. That we can go and have a competitive game with them and feel like actually we have chances to win that match, which sounds kind of like we're you know, I'm not kind of rating our ability, but it's not that. It's more, I find it really interesting coming from tennis, because if we were to put two you know, people like ourselves in the shoes of a tennis player and play, right, go and play a professional tennis player, having not done the training that they were doing, it wouldn't even be a contest. But I find it really interesting how in paddle you it's not the same, or it doesn't feel like it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's probably two elements. That one is paddle, even if you have easier matches, there's no such thing as being a love and you blast them off the court and it like you would do in tennis. I think every match, you know, the players win by being more consistent, and therefore there's always a match on your hands, you know, unless there's a really big mismatch. But generally, I think, you know, it's part of the game that it is closer no matter what, and you make lots of balls and that match will be close. And I think probably also that highlights the difference between, you know, the kind of development of the game in the different countries. You know, the guys we played in the last match were, you know, a Spanish pair, quite young. I don't know where they train in which academy, but they'll be training full time in an academy every week, going to these tournaments. And you and I'm not saying that if we had that opportunity we would be at that level, but I think we would obviously be a lot closer to that level. But you know, we're here in the UK, and obviously this is now a beautiful day, so we could play outdoors, but this is the first one we've had for about 6 months. And I mean, you know, you and I, we're traveling over an hour to our nearest indoor facility where we can practice, and really there's a handful of people in this country that we can practice with and have really good games, and so we just don't have the access. I think that's it, you know. And you've got to think that in Spain, you know, these players are everywhere. Every club, well, not every club, but the majority of clubs have academies, have strong players, have coaches, have all of this. So, you know, I think that it won't be long until other nations, I mean, definitely at this level, I think it's going to be a lot longer until we see other nations competing at the top of Premier and making top 10. But at this level, it will not be long until we're seeing other nations competing and winning FIPs and getting to a high level. But it's not going to be nations that only have majority outdoor courts and don't have any proper coaching structures and development and tournament structure. Like, yeah. I mean, it's impossible. So you know, and that's why we're starting to see more Swedes. Yeah. We're seeing the Portuguese, you know, they're very strong. The French pairs are strong. The Italians strong. You know, they've all got loads and loads of clubs. You know, loads of good quality academies, good coaching in their countries, and they will be catching up. But unfortunately, we're a little bit behind that, as are a lot of other emerging countries.
And what would you work on from your tournament?
I thought you meant as a nation.
No.
I was like, yeah,
let me get my whiteboard
out. Yeah. What would I work on?
Because I would say that you train less than me. Because I you know, I go to Spain. You know, I try when I can to fit in, but obviously family and you know, your commitments make that difficult.
Yeah.
For you. So, how would you even approach what you would work on now? You know, and what would it be?
I mean, for me, it's difficult because I probably, in terms of work-wise, I travel probably more than you for work, but less than you for the training. You know, so. You know, if I look at my next 4 weeks, at 2.5 of those, I'm traveling giving clinics, and so it is a little bit difficult. But you know, a big thing for me is fitness, is just keeping that fitness going and making that a priority in my day. And it's so different, right? Like I use my Apple Watch on both the second and the third match I used it on, and you know, and they were 2 matches in one day, and I think, you know, between those 2 matches, I've, you know, burnt, I think it said something like 2,700 calories. And, you know, the second match was 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that. And then we get, you know, the next morning, then we're back on court. And so fitness is key to doing that. And then really for me, I feel like if I was going to look at my game and if I had the opportunity to train, I would be working on working a bit more on the height of my shots, in terms of when I haven't played for a while, I end up not hitting that Chiquita quite as well as I would like, or hitting my return high to the backhand volley. I don't quite get it in the zone that I like it, or the lob is another one. Like, I don't quite get the height and the depth on that lob, and so if I was to go into training, those would be areas that I would definitely focus on. And
given that, and many players listening might be the same here, given that, you know, you're not going to go on a court and do baskets of training like that, are you? So probably your training is going to be matches if you're going to do any sort of training. So how would you apply that in a match or a training match? Would you just focus on, I'm going to focus on those 2 shots, or how would you do it? Yeah,
so for me, I think I'm probably in a slightly different position from a lot of our players or people maybe listening to this, in that I've got a volume of matches and paddle that experience that I've had before. You know, I competed and I trained very consistently for 6 or 7 years, really, and now obviously I'm not doing that. So what I would do now is I would bring that into my matches, and that's the thing I need more than anything, is just match practice. If I end up playing for the British team this summer, you know, I will have to put in, you know, a couple of weeks of playing really good matches and lots of matches before the event to feel match fit. Even this week, having played 4 games, I feel the best after the 4th game, like in terms of reading the game, choosing the right shots, hitting the right depth, all of that type of stuff. So I would focus on matches, and to bring that out in matches, absolutely, I would just work on that in the games. And if they are social games and fun games or training games, then I wouldn't worry about the result. I'd say, right, I'm going to play, you know, a lot of my returns high to the backhand, or, you know, I'm going to focus on getting that real depth on my lob. And if I'm going to miss, I'm going to miss by hitting long rather than hitting short. And, you know, I don't care about the result in those games, so it's going to be very focused on implementing those tactical shots and what I'm working on. You know, if someone doesn't have that experience and they wanted to work on something, then you would probably try and put it into training a little bit. You know, I would probably say, look, if you wanted to work on similar things but you didn't have that match experience, I'd say try and dedicate 2 sessions a week to training and do drills like we have on our platform, where it's, you know, hit 1 ball down, hit 1 lob, hit 1 down, then hit, you know, over the head for the Bahada, and do it like that, and combine that training with matches, because a lot of it is muscle memory and repetition. But, you know, I've done so much of that repetition. It is there. It is under there somewhere. It's just I just need the match practice to bring it back out, really.
And physically, I thought you handled it really well, considering, I mean, we were joking about it in the last podcast, weren't we? Saying,
yeah.
Oh, you know,
you were quite doubtful.
Well, no, I mean, and to be fair, you know, I think I came away after that last match with feeling like pain everywhere, and you seemed to handle it fine, which was testament to all your.
Yeah,
I believe you now. You've been doing all those gym sessions you said you were doing.
It's funny. When I was in Dubai, I had a really good physical trainer that I was working with, and we built up a really good base. Like, I trained really well for 18 months, really, and I built up a really strong base. So even now, when I go off it and on it for a little bit, I know what to come back in and to do, and I know what, for me, physically I need to work. Like, a lot of it for me are, mobility, like kind of long lunges, different directional stuff with, glute strength, all of that. And so the last couple of weeks I've been working on that to try and make sure I was match fit physically. But it is important. It was also difficult. That surface made it difficult, because you just didn't have the grip, and so you felt like you were constantly reactive. And I mean, for us, not moaning about the location again, but we were driving. We were driving in an hour and 15 or an hour and a half in traffic to get there, play the match, and then an hour and a half back. So it's difficult. Your knees and your hips and everything like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it is difficult, but I mean, it's part of it, isn't it? The physical side is, no matter what your level, if you want to improve, it's really important.
So the next few weeks for you, you're travelling a little bit, hopefully maintaining a bit of this momentum then with your gym and training.
Yeah, I will do.
Inspired you?
You have. You've inspired me, and actually from this, I've put a couple of tournaments in the calendar now. So
okay, when
I've got something to train. Actually,
I was not with you, mate.
Looking for another partner now after this week.
Yeah. It's not with you, but I'll put a couple in.
No, I have got a couple of tournaments in, and so it's good to have something to train
scouted.
for. Yeah. Yeah,
I didn't get the call up.
Yeah. I've gone very silent.
That's good.
Before I've not had stuff to train for, and I just then the motivation to do all that. So, I'm in the UK for a week 10 days, and then I'll do a few clinics. But I will keep this training up for sure. And you're off to Madrid for some training on Tuesday.
I am, yeah. So
hopefully some matches as well, right?
Yeah,
that's the key.
Yeah. I'm going to try and get some matches in while I'm there, and some training. I love going back there because I've started going back quite a bit now in the last 12 months, and I know everyone, and the coaches know you, and they know your game. So really looking forward to that. And after that as well, there's like a GB training camp in Alicante, which I know you can't make, but that'll be interesting. We did one in the UK previously, and now this one is in Alicante in Spain. So it's actually I've been to the club in Alicante already, so I know what it's like. It's obviously the weather's good. Hopefully we will not only play with players in the GB team, but other Spanish players, so we mix it in, because otherwise, if all of us go over there, we'll just be playing each other in nicer weather. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. And a bit like you, I guess, it's nice to do this tournament because you get a bit of momentum, and then even if it's just training or practice matches, I feel like that's when you can start seeing quite a lot of improvement. I think when you get on a bit of a roll and you gain a bit of confidence, and it just helps with everything. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, nice. And in terms of the paddle school, next week in April, we're having our challenge. Our monthly member challenge is the lob, and I feel like that's perfect straight after this tournament. We should have a look at ourselves. It's such an important part of the game, isn't it? And that time we spent with Martin Dineno when we were in Madrid, and seeing the simplicity on his shot, and a lot of the course actually that we're putting in for the lob in our members group is around stuff that we spoke to him about in terms of technique and when he uses it and what type of thing he's thinking. So I'm excited for that to come out, and then after that we'll almost start our trips, and our physio course is out now as well, which is great, which is also we're going to be using after this tournament. You can see a pattern here emerging. Yeah, exactly. All of our courses are for us to improve. Yeah. No, that'll be good. I think the lob challenge is really good. We did the serve challenge last month, where we saw like loads of improvement. Players putting in, they send clips in of their serve to us, and we give them feedback. And we saw, it's great because you have 30 days, and you can really see a transformation. The first video someone puts in to the last video they put in those 30 days is a big difference. And hopefully with the lob as well, we'll have members putting their shots in, us analysing it, and like you said, the physio course. that's awesome. Like, I think that's going to be a really, really important course for our members, because we know, like, looking at the data, and we ask our members questions about, you know, have you been injured or are you injured? And so many of our members, I think it's around 40% of our members, like, have had an injury or do have an injury in paddle that they're managing. So we put this course together because we thought it's just so needed for our members.
I just hope people use it almost before the injury gets bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know, and you know what it's like if you feel a bit of tightness in your knee or tightness in your shoulder. I mean, we've got exercises in there for people to use to strengthen all of the most common injuries. So I just hope that players use it, and well, we know what it's like, and I'm guilty of this as well, is you don't do the exercises until you're injured, and then it is a bit, you know, it's all more difficult. But I do hope that, you know, players do review those, because it can make such a difference, not only to avoid injury but also performance. You know, strengthening your shoulder and your knees and your glutes, etc., ankles, everything it's key to paddle, especially how physical the game is.
Yeah, the course is definitely not. It's not a course to treat injury. It's a course to prevent and maintain. And it's really interesting, actually, because you were chatting about, you know, having a base in paddle and a base in fitness, and getting a base in fitness and strengthening the part of your body is exactly the same, right? If you put it in, even if you don't get injured or you've only got little niggles, if you can put that base in by doing these exercises, like, it will just mean that over the years, like you're saying, you have a base there, and you know, you will have fewer injuries.
Yeah. Well, it's consistency over time. Yeah. That is what I'm still amazed by it. It was like the time I put in, and this is 2.5 years ago that I was doing this, or finished that 18 months of doing it. And, you know, initially I thought, oh, my fitness has gone down, but the base level is there. I just need to keep, you know, kind of bringing it back up when I can. But if people can put these exercises into their daily routine, it's cumulative, and they get consistent with that, then, you know, they'll go from strength to strength. Like that, don't you?
It's a little trademark.
Pardon the pun.
Yeah. No, I agree. And well, I mean, I really enjoyed our tournament this week.
I thought you say our chat.
No, well, and our chat, and I hope. Yeah, I'm looking forward to. Actually, I might get this on camera now. When are we next playing our tournament? And then we can actually enter.
Well, we can always cut.
Got my phone. No. I want accountability. When are we next playing our next tournament?
When's our next tournament?
So you got a few coming up.
Yeah, I've got a couple coming up. With Nikhil. So Nikhil, he does some of our clinics and coaching, and I've done some coaching with him. So I'll do a couple with him, and then, you know, when you're ready, young Padawan. Yeah, wow. That kind of thing.
There's a bit of pressure for me then. Let me go to Spain and get training a bit.
To Spain.
Yeah. No, I look forward to it. And Sandy, it's a pleasant change from sitting on the podcast couch, looking out on the rain, like, to be out here in the sunshine.
I don't know how often we'll do this, but let's make the most of it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Cheers.